One common came out of a lot of searching, like, Lord, what do you want this to be? Because it was just a new season. It was the right time. And so one common comes from us being brothers. So we have the common brother bond, that blood bond, but also the same bond we all have as believers is the blood bond of Jesus Christ.
Between the Grooves is hosted by James Curtis, music director and morning man in the Greater Toronto Area on Joy Radio, and Ayiesha Woods, Grammy-nominated singer, songwriter, and musician. Together, they talk with artists and industry insiders to discover our connection between music and faith. You can connect with us on Facebook or X at Between Grooves and on Instagram at Between Grooves Pod. Now, here's James and Ayiesha.
Hello, my friend. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. I can't complain. It's been busy, but I can't complain.
I'm thinking about how I can't wait for summer.
Okay.
You know, my favorite place to go on vacation in the sun,
yes,
in the U.S. is Miami.
Oh my!
I've been there a couple of times.
Down.
Oh yeah, I've been there a couple of times. Now, we've gone in the summertime, so it's extra, extra hot, but I'm good with that.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like if I'm going to get the heat, I'd rather milk it for what it's worth and get my, my 365 days worth because of the winters that we, quote unquote, enjoy in Canada.
Yes, I hear you. It's a lively place.
Yeah.
And it's always lively.
Well, our guests on Between the Groove this week, originally from Miami.
That's cool.
Yeah, Carlos and Michael formed the group One Common, and today we get to chat with them.
Hey, thank you. Good morning. How are you guys?
We're doing good.
We're doing well. You guys are Florida boys. How have you made the adjustment? Are you living in Nashville now or just staying there for a period of time?
Yeah, we're living in Nashville now. I'll speak for myself.
Okay.
I don't fare well in the cold at all.
Neither do I, and I live in Toronto.
I stay inside as much as I can, or if not, I'm wearing 10 layers.
And I love the cold.
Oh, gosh.
Not exactly what it's been, but my wife and I, we keep inside at like 65, and we like to... We like the weather to be cold and just to have to wear layers. So I actually love it here.
Also,
wow,
I'll probably
that's
just
nice.
real quick. This voice is Michael.
Oh, yeah. And I'm Carlos here.
Okay.
Michael and Carlos, who's older?
I am. So I'm 24.
And I'm 21.
Yeah. I'm married. I've got 2 kids. One that turns 2 in like 2 weeks, and then one that turns 1 in like 4 weeks.
Oh, you got stair steppers, brother. Good night.
That's a busy time of life too for you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I first heard of
wonderful.
You guys, I guess about a year ago. You performed at the Kingdom Bound Music Festival last summer, and I missed your performance. I was tied up with some interviews, and so I missed it.
No, it's okay. We forgive you.
There you go. I might have seen you in catering, but there's always lots of people there, so I wouldn't have known you to see you type thing. But didn't you guys used to be in a group called Young Heart?
That's correct.
That is right. Wow, you know your stuff. Yeah,
so let's find out a little bit about this transition from Young Heart to One Common.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
should we start from the very, very beginning?
Yeah.
Let's hear about the very beginning and even about the whole, like, sell everything you have and go on the road. You know, that sort of like. There's a lot of stuff at play here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So our dad is a pastor. Like we've talked about, we grew up in Miami, and so he planted a church out there. And basically, I'll keep it abbreviated, but how we started singing was one time we were just singing in the car, and our dad, noticed that we were singing and said, "Hey, you guys don't sing too bad." And we were a small church plant of how many?
Like 30 people on an incredible day.
Yeah. So very small church.
Those are the best churches.
We loved it. And so we didn't have anyone to lead worship. So we were doing videos, like tracks with lyrics, and just singing along. My dad said, "Hey, well, if you guys can sing, why don't you use your gift, for God? We have nobody here to lead worship. I know you guys are young, but would you guys want to do that?" And we said, "Hey, sure." And through that, actually, several other kids from the church started leading. So we had a youth-led primary worship band for the church, which was really unique, but really cool thing. And through that, Michael, myself, we have 3 sisters, 2 of which were old enough at the time to, be singing. We all felt a call from the Lord to continue in using singing and music to glorify Him, and not only that, but to obviously share the gospel and make His name known. And so one of those days, my dad, he just felt from the Lord, I guess, a push to take our ministry not only inside the church, but outside of it, to preach the gospel to people that might never heard of the name of Jesus. And so he asked us, he said, "Hey, here's what I feel that the Lord wants us to do. What do you guys think?" And I think we all kind of thought he was crazy, but we've always respected that. He's a man of the Lord. And so we said, "Hey, we trust you, so let's do it." And he sold, pretty much everything we had, bought an RV that was almost 40 feet long, and we lived in that for 6 months. That was our home. We'd sold our house, so that was it. We went around the country with no booked dates. It was really just, "Hey, Lord, wherever to go
by faith."
We're gonna, oh, very much.
And I don't know. I don't know if I could do that. 6, like nothing.
You're
booked.
a planner.
I'm a planner, and so not knowing what's going to happen for the next 6 months, and anything from buying groceries to putting fuel in the RV. I don't know about that.
Right.
We're quite the opposite. We're very spontaneous. Like, we just posted a song on Instagram and people liked it. So we're like, you know what? Instead of releasing it in 3 months, let's just get it out and release it in like 1.5 months.
So it kind of works with, I guess, we all kind of have different ways that we operate, and the Lord kind of used that in that season to say, "Hey, well, if your guys are kind of spontaneous, go do that for me." And so Michael and I shared a twin bed for those 6 months. It was a RV fold down.
Ooh, nothing like cuddling up with your brother.
Yeah. And so basically we did that for 6 months. We played in some churches. We knock on doors and just say, "Hey, can we minister to your staff?" And some of those churches would say, "Hey, we'll Sunday too." And then we would just homeless people go lead worship for them and pray over them. Or we met a man who was involved in a hit and run in a laundromat. And it was those scary moments when our dad would look at us and say, "Go bring the guitar." And we were like, "Oh, really, right now?"
Wow.
Us, and we're grateful for that.
Especially as some days, because we were living in that thing. So we would get out and we're probably in like PJs, just like regular, like not any sort of going out clothes, doing our laundry. And it'd be like, "Oh, we're going to sing for this person." Okay. So it was kind of, it was humbling in a way, because it would just be like, "All right, we're here to serve everybody, even if we look disheveled."
That's a good way to put it.
I could see that. Yeah, I could see that being humbling, but at the same time, I guess it's a wake up call from your dad, in the sense that, guys, this isn't the vacation. Like, we're here to minister, and that's like 24/7. It's, as they say, in season and out of season. And so
that's it.
Doing laundry, grab the
ready.
guitar, let's go. What are you going to do while the laundry's going? Like, twiddle your thumbs and just wait and, goof off on social media, whatever else?
May as well minister to some people.
May as well do something with the time, right?
Yeah.
That's very cool.
So that was the start of what, we were formerly known as Young Heart, where we sung with our sisters, and just through a couple seasons following that, our sisters felt the Lord calling them in different directions of ministry that just wouldn't allow them to have put their time into the music ministry as we had been doing. And so one of our sisters is a foster mom. She's fostering a little boy right now. And she's, I think, like 3 years, but it's required her to stay in North Carolina while she's taking care of him. And so different things like that. We were just like, "Hey, this was a good season. Lord, where do you want us next?" And for Michael and I, it was to continue it. And so through that, finding sort of our identity as now brother worship pop duo, who are we? What type of music do we want to make? And so that's kind of where one came from.
So you can officially say you did not actually kick your sisters out of the band.
Definitely.
Correct.
Okay.
we need them for sure.
And how did you come up with the name One Common?
Yeah, so One Common came out of a lot of searching, like, Lord, what do you want this to be? Because at that point we knew we were going to change the name. It was just a new season. It was the right time. And so One Common comes from us being brothers. So we have the common brother bond, that blood bond, but also the same bond we all have as believers is the blood bond of Jesus Christ, who brings us all together. And so that's the reason we sing music, that we post anything on Instagram, go places and play. It's to unify people for the name and the glory of Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'll add in a tiny, somewhat unrelated thing to that. But despite what anybody says, the hardest part about being in the band is coming up with a name. That took us a long time and a lot of scrapped ideas.
Yeah, that's true.
so you guys, as a group now, One Common, how long has that been a thing?
So it's been a thing, I think, since
about a year now, just over a year now.
Okay, so
Yes.
post pandemic.
Not long. Okay.
not long.
No, yeah.
As Carlos and Michael, though, as the both of us, just the both of us, probably about 2 years.
Yeah, we continued as Young Heart for about a year.
Oh, okay.
Then,
Actually,
and then
technically, the both of you would be about 21 years, right? Technically,
Pretty much.
yeah.
We just
Young hearts.
And
Young
Carlos, you've known your brother all your life, right? Oh no, it's the other way around.
yeah. I've known him all my life. There were three years of his life he didn't know me.
Yeah,
I had a
exactly.
sweet period of
The worst three. No,
calmness.
that was the worst 3 years of his life.
That's right. Of course. You could tell they're brothers, can't you?
I love it.
Yeah. So when you guys were Young Heart, before I guess the transition between Young Heart and Young Heart and One Common, in the middle of all of that, we had this thing called a pandemic. What were you guys doing during that?
That's a funny question.
We were doing nothing.
We were actually doing nothing. Yeah. So in between that, we call it a mission tour, where we were, out the country. And then when we decided to pick it up at first as Young Heart and then switching now to One Common, we had a break, a little bit of family crisis, I guess I would say. So a big part of my testimony is I kind of had a prodigal son season, and through that, I met a girl. I just wanted to pursue her in a way that I just shouldn't have. It would have been disrespectful to my family and just not the right way to go about things biblically. And so I wound up literally packing my bags, hopping in my car, and not leaving my parents' house and not seeing them for about 6 months. And I actually went and lived with her parents. And so through that season, I learned a lot about myself, a lot about the Lord and the Bible, and what the right way to do things are and the wrong way to do things are. And so I actually wound up proposing to her behind my parents' back. I didn't tell them. I actually called them while they were on a cruise and was like, hey, here's what I'm doing. I don't really care what you say, kind of just left it out there. Well, I always joke I owe them a cruise. And one day, if we ever make money from this, that's what I'm going to do first thing is get them a cruise, because I put them through a lot then, and they've been good with me. But I did things the wrong way. And basically I'd meet up with my dad to have these, in my mind, what I thought as Bible battles. While my dad would just want to show me the scripture. Hey, here's the right ways to do things. And even though I thought they were battles and I went into them with that mindset, the Lord used the scripture he was sharing with me to turn my heart back to the Lord. And so me and this girl, we wound up breaking up the engagement. I actually told her, I was like, hey, actually, this is wrong. And she actually wound up agreeing and was like, yeah, we can't do this. So we had already sent wedding invitations. We took everything back. We felt like our sign of surrender to the Lord would just be like giving my parents the ring, because we felt genuinely like we were like, well, this is meant to be, like, what's going on here? So that's why we were like, forget everybody, we're gonna do our own thing. But we were like, you know what, we're gonna give my parents the ring. If it is meant to be, it'll happen. And that would be the hardest ring to come out of anybody's hands as my parents. After that situation, so we did that, reconciled with my family. had a period of prayer and fasting, and by the grace of God, my parents actually gave me the ring back, gave us the blessing, and so that's my wife now, that I have
That's
2 kids
awesome.
with. And so that was basically what we were doing. The whole pandemic was sort of a spiritual pandemic in my life. But the Lord grew us out of that.
Except the only thing I'll add to that is normally I thought the prodigal son was always supposed to be the younger brother.
I know, right?
A little different this time.
Yeah, because I'm thinking of my family. I got 2 brothers, and I can think of one of the 2 that, I could see doing something that would be considered prodigal.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I think here's the dilemma. I'm the younger brother, but I'm the middle child. So there's a little bit of conflict. It is what it is. Not too far this way, not too far that way. So it just
right.
That's doing that.
That's awesome, though. That's a powerful testimony, and kudos to you for your transparency. Just with you being transparent, it's gonna help so many people. So thanks for sharing that, really.
No, absolutely. That's something we try and recognize. Like, it can be hard or awkward sometimes, but God doesn't bring us through seasons and give us testimonies and stories to, like the light hide under a bushel. So we gotta share it and maybe learn from our mistakes, but more importantly, just be pointed to God, regardless.
So are your folks still in ministry? Is your dad still pastoring a church down here in sunny Florida?
So it's
they've moved up here with us, actually. So
they're up here with us. We actually
nice.
Got to keep an eye on the boys. I know.
Yeah.
After the whole mission tour, we actually moved up to North Carolina. We were there for a couple years.
Okay.
And we've been here in Nashville for 2 years, I think.
Yeah.
But
our dad leads a ministry here called the King's Table, and it's sort of a parachurch thing where it's not a church, or it's not meant to be a replacement for the Sunday morning gathering.
It's like it's like for Christians to gather, have fellowship outside of church. We go to a coffee shop, we'll sing a couple songs, 5-10 minute devo, and the rest of the time we'll just fellowship. But it's also an outreach for anybody by the coffee shop. Some people come in and they're like, oh, what's this? They'll come in and order a coffee, and they'll hear somebody preaching or somebody singing worship songs.
Sure.
And sometimes they'll stay, they'll ask more questions, and it's cool.
Yeah, if you don't mind me asking, how do other churches feel about that? Because that's often a threat, right? When you see, an organization saying we're not a church, but it's almost like evolving into a church, and so that's the threat that other churches possibly might feel.
No, that's a great question. Maybe a tough one too, but at least for us, our mindset is always the body of Christ, in several different areas, whether you go by this church name, whether it's Franklin Church, which is an area out here, or Spring Hill Church or Nashville Church, different areas, we're the body of Christ, and we might be meeting in different locations, but we all have the same goal. And so we like to look at it through the lens of not competition, but more of complementing each other and the different giftings that God's given us. And so we do make it very, I think we say it sometimes, we do it on Tuesday nights. We say, hey, we don't want you guys to replace your church gathering with this, but we want you guys to come here as an additional space where you can fellowship, meet more believers, and we can, be light in darkness and reach the world outside the church as well. So I think we actually try and partner with some churches, because we're not trying to replace the message through the gospel that comes through church, but just be a complementary addition during the week, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And you say you're getting the support from other churches doing that, so.
Yeah, we have a lot of people from different churches come. We've had pastors from different churches come as well. And I haven't heard anything unsupportive at all, because everything we do is to feed back into the community and the community of Christ as well. We're actually tonight doing one of those, and it's in support of an outreach here. So even though we're in outreach, we're doing an appreciation dinner for another outreach. It's like we're just always trying to find different ways beyond ourselves, and be thankful for Lord's people.
When I was in my late teens, I was putting together this group of people very similar to what you're suggesting there, except it was geared towards post-secondary, like college and university students, kind of gathering together, once a month. And I didn't want it to be competition to the church, like we've talked about, or a threat. And so the way I worked it was I made sure that everybody on the worship team, or on the I should really call it music team, because it wasn't necessarily a worship time as much as it was all Christian music. Normally we would look at that as praise and worship, but I didn't want to frame it that way, because you would have a lot of outsiders come in potentially as well. And so I tried to involve a lot of people from different worship teams and musicians from different churches. And the whole thing, to be honest, didn't last very long, because it was exhausting trying to coordinate all of these people from different churches and their responsibilities in their own church, and then everything from rehearsals to almost feeling like I had to have this guy on sound because he was in a different church, but he was a really bad sound guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So how do you guys work that on, and I know this is your dad's ministry more than anything else, but you guys are obviously involved in it.
Yeah. It helps. So our sister's in North Carolina, but there are pretty much 7 of us here.
Yeah.
So, and including Carlos's wife. So we already have a team of 7, and so we do a lot of it. We'll have other people help, but it's like, oh, hey, you can't make it. We can easily fill in. But also, the coffee shop owner is very supportive. So we do it after hours. He opens up. Part of it is ministry to his workers too. He'll help us with other things. He's recently even, and this is kind of just part of his own thing, but it kind of ties into what we do and other things he hosts there that are similar.
Yeah. That
he got a stage in, sound in. So
it's definitely
it's a partnership too.
Yeah, absolutely. We with our stuff, we grew up as I guess a church planting family, so we're very used to, digging in, doing all the work, which can be a blessing and a curse. Our family, we're hard workers, but we do have several people that come that are very faithful and pretty much come every week. It's kind of a new ministry too at the same time, so we don't have volunteers per se. But
well, you guys are the volunteers, obviously.
Yeah. We have other people that'll come and help set up, or we lead worship a lot, but we also, try and find other artists that even might be newer and want to find an outlet for their music to share the gospel, to do that there, and they'll help with that as well. So it's a cool and special thing.
Mm-hmm.
So how does one common play into all of this? Because obviously that's your career, or that's what you're known as. Is that, a 40-hour a week? Is that like what your full-time gig is?
Yeah, that's you got a lot of good questions, man. So not right now. I work full-time, and actually Michael is, in the past couple months, has quit his full-time job and is doing the band full-time. But basically where one common plays into all this is at the heart of everything, ministry and gospel-centered, a gospel-centered message is the focus. Mm-hmm. And so One Common has just become a really great outlet to be able to do that. And in the past year, I'll tell you about probably when you saw us, or maybe even before, December of last year, or I should say December 2022, we had 20,000 followers on Instagram. Nothing on TikTok, pretty much nothing everywhere else. And we were like, man, are we even reaching anybody? And a message my dad has always, really championed with us is, hey, it's all about reaching one person. If we can bring one person to the Lord and share the gospel to one person, that is good in the sight of the Lord. And so in a season of a little bit of discouragement there, we're like, you know what? It doesn't matter. We're just going to keep going with this until we feel the Lord maybe say not to. And it's been a wild ride this year because January to now, we have now like over 330,000 followers on Instagram and over 140 on TikTok. And God has really basically grown our platform. And so our whole thing is like, we don't do this for our own glory. We do it for the Lord's. And so where One Common just plays into everything is we're grateful for the way that the platform has grown. And we think of it even as a church. We have a lot more people we're able to minister to than a lot of churches than our church plant than we had back in Miami. So we just have to be good stewards of that and just make sure we're always pointing people to God. And whether it's through music or silly videos we do that you may have seen, or we'll promote the Kingdom on there sometimes. At the end of the day, it's all ministry, and music for us is the main outlet, but that's the purpose.
That's awesome. And may God expand your territory and your reach. Who writes? Because I know you guys do quite a few covers, but who writes your original music?
So we write original music, but I will say Carlos does the majority of the writing.
Well, because he's the full-time employee. That's why. You got to keep that guy busy. I'm telling you.
That's so funny.
He does most of the writing, but I do. In terms of writing, it's probably 80%, 20%. I'm more of like a filter tweaker. He's like idea generator.
Very necessary though.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I do all our production in terms of what we post on Instagram and moving more into what we put out on Spotify and Apple Music and all that.
In addition, when we can, we do like to find the opportunity to co-write with other people and also do some co-production as well. But primarily, I do a lot of writing. And Michael, anything sound you guys hear probably came from Michael, especially on social media. He's really good at that.
That's cool. Are you what type of recording software are you using?
I use Ableton Live and Pro Tools.
Okay, cool.
So it just depends on what I'm doing.
Yeah.
How does Nashville play in all of this? I mean, do you guys have to be in Nashville? Is it the people? Is it the resources? Is it the fact that labels are there, or it's just a huge music community?
I think, we definitely don't have to be in Nashville. A lot of like our reach and what we put our effort into is social media, which is worldwide. It's, it's just, you can reach anybody.
I mean, you could be in Toronto for that, right?
Yeah, we'd be in Toronto. We'd be back in Miami.
It's too cold.
Yeah. So no, it's too cold. No, you can still post on social media from Toronto. I've tried.
That's good.
So like our managers here, we have a bunch of awesome friends who are also in music here that, either we're able to bounce some ideas off of or just kind of talk stuff through with. It's definitely been, right now we're calling out of a friend of ours studio who I do some work with. And if we weren't in Nashville, we probably wouldn't have met him.
Yeah. So he's awesome. It's funny because we talk to some people about that same question all the time. Especially people that are maybe looking to start getting into music. And I think it just depends. It really just depends. For us, it's worked in our benefit a lot just to be around the Nashville community and get plugged in a lot of areas here. But you have a lot of people, Phil Wickham's out in California or right. You don't have to be in Nashville. And we definitely encourage people, don't, put a pause on your music ministry just because you're not in Music City, Nashville. But, if it's something, a place the Lord's calling you to go, for us, it's been helpful.
I think Phil Wickham's doing pretty good considering that he's 3 hours behind everybody else. So
I know.
That's a good way to put it.
Right. That's the way you got to frame things the right way. Just put things in perspective, right?
Listen, we're all in his future.
There you go.
That's saying, here's what I'll do next.
Yeah. So let's talk about music, and obviously you're getting radio airplay. You've done some I would say some major gigs. The fact that you got the spot at the Kingdom Bound Music Festival, I'm assuming you got more than just that last summer. But how are things looking as far as One Common getting even more exposure beyond just the socials?
Yeah, that's where this year we're focusing a lot of our effort on exactly that. We're going to still work on keeping up our socials, but, building up dates and stuff like that. A lot of it has been a bit in question for us because as much as we love this, we also don't want to do it the traditional way. And the way that we grown hasn't been the traditional way. I mean, personally, I'm already married, so I don't want to be away from my wife and kids for honestly even a month, doing a tour. And if the Lord asked me to, like, of course. But so we just try and take a different approach where it's how can we share the gospel, but also not have to take big chunks of time away from our family, or at least include them on it. My wife and kids will come with us as much as they can if we're riding to a show via our van, which we actually did to Kingdom Bound. And so a lot of it is thinking through strategically. We do want to get out there, we do want to play shows, but like I don't want to neglect my family. And so right now we're kind of in the middle of a lot of that. You have people like Anthem Lights. I mean, I think are primarily like a Spotify or things like that, a streaming band, which is awesome, and we love that they found a way to do that. And so we kind of want to find a middle ground where we know we're really strong online, and we can share the gospel through that, but we can still go out with a bit of a balance between ministry and family, as family's ministry as well.
And going on the road with a young family in tow or staying at home is always difficult. I remember years back, I was working for a company and it required me to travel, and my son was maybe a year old or something like that. And I was required to travel. It was like every other week from Toronto to Montreal. And I'd be gone for several days, and I needed to do this.
That's tough.
And it is tough. And you know what? My wife will never let me forget it. So the fact that you guys are thinking that now, I mean, and obviously you being the band, you being the group, you guys can determine what you accept or don't accept as far as, gigs and opportunities and whatnot, versus me working for a company and like, I have no choice. I've got to do this for my job, or I don't have a job. And so we made it work, but like I said, my wife will never let me forget that. And I learned a lot through that as well. So what are you guys looking at? Are you looking at possibly doing some summer festivals? I know a lot of the summer music festivals are, weekend things, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday type thing, or maybe Monday's a travel day. So, and I've noticed a lot, even post-pandemic, that a lot of the tours have, not that they've shortened, but the number of back-to-back dates have shortened so that they can not be on the road for 20 days straight. They're on the road for 3 days and then back for 3 type thing.
Right.
Yeah, so we're looking at a similar thing this year to last year. So we did last summer. Summer is, of course, always the busiest time. Just have several runs, which I think maybe all of them except for one, when we went to Arizona, did my wife Cameron and my kids come. So something similar this year. We're kind of line them up, especially if it's festivals, so that we can make it as cost effective, so I can bring my family, or also like we could take the van. It's not flying everywhere, and it's just less strenuous, but we're still able to get out there and share the gospel, because the lens we look through it as is it's a ministry. So we're not looking necessarily to build the traditional music career where we're on these big stages and lights and platforms and, doing this. And there's nothing wrong with that. And if that comes like that, that's awesome. But our first goal is sharing the gospel. And if that's through different ways, then, that's something we're good with.
Right. And, when you are traveling, if you are able to take family with you, that's always ideal. Like I had a conversation with someone once where, the concern was being on the road, and yet if they were all, as an example, local events, why not, if you have to travel a couple of hours by car or, or in a van or something like that, bring the family with you. You're staying at a hotel. Yeah. They can stay at the hotel while you're doing sound check. If the hotel's got amenities for kids, or if you're doing, summer gigs where it's at a theme park and, you're off doing sound check and they're off on the rides, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, ask my boys.
Yeah.
Does this one have a pool?
Yeah. So besides summer events, I know you guys have been doing a lot of, like you say, on the socials and stuff. You were doing some covers over Christmas. Is that still, like, do you have a specific thought pattern or a strategic plan when it comes to socials, i.e., how many times you post per day or per week, or what sort of content you post? Is it always the two of you singing or behind the scenes shots? What is your philosophy on that whole thing?
Yeah, so we're trying to. So this year, and like Carlos was saying, we got our socials down. We're going to try and maintain it. What we're doing is we're posting a full worship cover on YouTube every week, and we post clips from that twice a week on Instagram. Yeah. And then we're trying to, and then the two other big things for us, a part of that is promoting our original music. So, people come to our Spotify, people are touched by either the words we write or, words us and somebody else writes together. And then the other part of that is more personally connecting with our whole audience. Like, hey, we're not just two guys that sing. We're Carlos and Michael. I feel like sometimes too, like if there's somebody that, and you can kind of see their heart and you just really know who they are, it's even easier to really resonate with the words they sing or write. Like, I know even some of our friends, they write incredible songs, but I feel like because I know who they are and like I can kind of see their heart for this, I feel the song so much more and like I feel their heart in it.
Yeah. So we try and take more of a person to person approach, I guess, than like a artist to fan. That's be our strategy, is just connecting with people as people and just trying to definitely seem. Doesn't matter how many followers we have. Some people say that we're famous. I'm like, bro, if you think we're famous, bro, you'd be disappointed if you live in my shoes. But it's like we're still people, man. We're just like everybody. And so that we approach it, just try to connect them.
But it's not just that, guys, because what I'm hearing is, and I understand all of that, and I understand that connection aspect to it. But you actually, surprisingly, and I shouldn't say surprisingly, but for you guys, it's brilliant. For other people, maybe they should start thinking about this, is actually having a strategic game plan of how they're going to tackle social media.
That's it.
Yeah.
You gotta have a plan.
Yeah. Sorry, you go.
No, I'll say real quick. It's one of the things I feel like is just not thought enough about from the music side. It's just such an advantage. And I think actually we're not like necessarily pioneering it, but so there are many people that are now doing it and it's starting to become, I think, more known, which I think is awesome because it's such a great outlet. But as Christians, we got to hop on it before, the world does, and they start, because they already have started using it. And so we actually met with a couple of artists the other day just to talk through social media game plan, because it seems like, such a little thing, but social media is a beast. Michael and I last year, we started off posting every day for about 3 months. We would stay up till 3,
I would get
4
back from
a.m.
I would go to my job. I would get there at 7. I would leave at 3:30, get home at 4.
Yeah.
Maybe have an hour
mercy.
to eat or something. Carlos would come over. We would work on videos. I'd be doing that for another 4 to 5 hours after that. By that time, it's, 8:30, 9 o'clock or something. And then it's like, all right, now I can take a couple minutes and relax and then go to bed and do it again the next day.
Yeah. It sounds like that was
Kudos
posting
to the dedication.
But was that a post for the sake of posting, or was that like feeling obligated to do that, or was that, before you actually had a game plan that you were doing that?
That was our game plan, was to be really intentional. And although we thought the year before we had been hustling on social media, we just realized we hadn't been. So that was coming out a bit of are we doing the right thing? And it's like, well, we know this is where God wants us right now, so we're going to literally for the next 3 months give it every single thing we have, every drop of sweat. And
my goodness,
the Lord used that, and I think we are glad we did it, because we're like, okay,
it's paid off.
This is what Lord wants to do. We've been reaching people through it, and so we still try and maintain that, obviously, with a little bit more balance, because we can't be up till midnight every night. But
yeah, it was a mix of both. I feel like honestly, we weren't posting as much as we should have. So our strategy was like, all right, we're going to post every day. While we're posting, we're building our strategy of, kind of refining what we want to post, where we want to take this. But also it's like, we just have to get a post in every day. Like, I feel like the consistency is kind of what helped us to make our strategy, because we'd do a post and we'd be like, you know what? That wasn't it. or that was it, let's do it again.
Yeah.
And, it helped us because in the span of a month, we would have posted 30, 31 times. We had 30, 31 chances to see what we should be posting, what we shouldn't be posting, how we can change things, how we can further formulate our strategy, or, even just
what connected with people more, because then we saw in certain things we'd post, people would say, oh, I look out for these every time. And it's like, okay, this is what's really reaching people, and it's got the message of the gospel in it. So we're going to do a little bit more of this, and we'd kind of work like that. Yeah.
I like the fact that you guys are analyzing the data and determining what works, what doesn't work. And I also like the fact that you're consistent, whether it's a daily thing, weekly thing, or whatever, at least you have a game plan. On the other side of things, though, I know of people that post way too much. I can think of one particular person that I see posting on their Instagram story. Like, if I were to, just jump on there and there's like 30 different things to scroll through. Like, I don't have time for that. And I'm thinking to myself, man, they got a lot of time to post all that stuff. And a lot of it's just needless content and useless information,
Yeah. Yeah, I think, to your point, it's consistency, but it's quality. Because that's one thing we always look at is not even quality of necessarily the production or stuff like that, although that's there. It's what is the quality of the value it's giving to the person watching it. And a lot of our content, it's the message or hope. And so if we're posting every day, but we're just posting pictures, hey, we're eating at Chick-fil-A, like that doesn't give any value to
right
audience. And of course there's the personal side of that where we do little things like that once in a while. But that's really the lens we look at through. Like, okay, we got to be consistent, but at the end of the day, what's almost trumps consistency might be quality. They work hand in hand. I don't even know if I should say that, but yeah.
Also just kind of diversifying what we post. So like we'd post every day, but we had kind of certain series or like different types of posts we would do, but we didn't try to just post that one type of video. We probably had 4 or 5 different types of videos that we would rotate between. So, people would see the other videos, maybe, like it, oh yeah, that was a great video or something. But then if there was kind of one type of video, when it would pop up on their feed, it'd be like, oh yes, I've been looking forward to this.
Right.
So it wasn't just, oh, I'm always being bombarded with this one type of post or, same type of post every day. I don't know.
Yeah. No, yeah.
Back to your point about, posting pictures of food. I should mention that today's episode is being brought to you by Chick-fil-A.
Hey,
there we go.
No, I'm just kidding. So, you see the look on Ayiesha's face. It's like, what?
Yeah, I didn't know that. Shameless plug.
That's right. Well, yeah, shameless. I mean, they just got some free publicity. You're welcome.
Yeah, they did.
Good stuff. Thanks, guys, for hanging with us. Appreciate it.
Oh,
awesome.
Man, that's sweet.
Thank you.
Hey, we appreciate you guys. Had a fun time talking to you.
Yeah, we had fun too.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
you guys,
guys.
stay warm and be safe.
Thank
We will.
You
You
guys
too.
be safe too. God bless you.
You too.
Thanks.
One comment on Between the Grooves. Check them out on their socials. They're always posting some great stuff. Time now for artist advice. Let's hear from Ben Stowe.
One would be to the worship musicians themselves, and that is to say, sound check how you will play. If you go up to the mic during sound check and you're like, check 1 2, check 1 2, and then you wail when you're performing, you're not helping the sound person.
Right.
Go out and play like you will play, so that the work you're doing, James, like you talked about, that those levels are close to right. And then probably the best piece of advice that I would offer to any audio professional or volunteer who's doing this is to fix the problem at the source. Here's an example. How many times, James, have you seen somebody spend hours trying to EQ bad sounding drums when, maybe the drum just sounds bad, or B, more common is the mic placement is bad. And just moving the mic saves you hours of messing around on a board to fix a problem that maybe you can't fix. Always fix the problem at the source.
A man after my own heart. What he said there, right on. Can I tell you? I've done audio for a while, and everything from the singer on the stage doing the sound check, like you're gonna sing it the way you're going to be singing it, because it's helpful. The sound guy is really trying to help you and make you sound good, right? And if you're going to be changing your style and belting it out louder than during the sound check, then it's just going to cause problems. So, and make sure you communicate to the sound guy what you're looking for. Like if you need more of your voice in your ears or in the monitor, like let him know, or more of the music or whatever, more of the track. And then that whole point about fixing the source, like, oh, yes.
Yeah.
It's
don't just put a Band-Aid on it.
Exactly. And too many times, especially in a church environment, it's easy to do that because of finances and whatever else. But if you know what the root cause is, try to deal with that root cause is to fix it.
Yeah, sure. I love Ben. He's just a stellar guy.
He is very knowledgeable.
And yep, absolutely. And just like he said, just address it. Don't put a Band-Aid on it and get it right the first time.
Yeah, the underlying thing, what he said there was the preparation, doing all that preparation in advance, because it just makes the live time easier, right?
It's a lot easier.
Yeah, a lot easier if you've done all the work ahead of time, for sure. Ben Stowe on Between the Grooves, thank you for that advice. And thank you to Carlos and Michael from One Common for chatting with us and hanging with us on Between the Grooves.
Thanks for listening to Faith Strong Today's Between the Grooves podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, would you consider sharing it with your friends, rating our podcast, or giving us some love on your socials to your amazing friends and followers will only help us reach more people. We'd also love to hear from you and share your feedback in an upcoming episode. Send your video or written message to Ayiesha and James on Facebook or X at Between Grooves and on Instagram at Between Grooves Pod. Or email us anytime, hello@faithstrongtoday.com.